Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. And welcome to the show, everybody. We have a prolific author on the show today. She's a screenwriter. She's written a bunch of books, and her name is Olivia Barry. And if you want to follow along, which I highly recommend that you do, go to Olivia, which is OLIVIA Barry with an A.com. And you can look at all the things she's done, the screenwriting, the books, and everything. And you can even buy one. There's a button to buy on Amazon right there. So you can do all that. Olivia, how are you today? Thank you for coming on the show.
I am great. Thank you for having me.
I'm
very excited.
Well, I am too. It is so awesome. And you know, we've got Christmas coming up and New Year after that. And then it'll be 2023. What you got happening in 2023?
2023 hopefully will be a great year to write many more books and to sell many more books.
That's always important. That's always important.
Yeah.
Now you're a screenwriter. You were a screenwriter first, right?
Yes, for many years. I was a screenwriter, and I'm still a screenwriter. It's not that I'm not writing screenplays anymore, but I gradually switched to writing novels simply because I'm just independent writing novels. You know, I can do it whenever I like. I'm not dependent on anybody else to tell me exactly what to do. Well, when you're a screenwriter, you're dependent on many, many people to say yes before anything happens. So I prefer the independent way.
And the director has got a great amount of input, I would imagine, and the original writer of the original material has a lot of input to it, and as does the executive producer, all 10 of them, or how many there are on a particular project. So it's kind of like working in the corporate world. You don't get the autonomy to do what you want. You have to, bend to a lot of different forces.
Right. It is a totally different medium, because as a screenwriter, you maybe, even if you write on spec, which means it's your idea, it's not a book that is out there, it's just your idea. You write a screenplay and you bring it out into the world, and then people start reading it. And everybody has a different opinion. People will tell you, oh, we love it, but we don't really like the main character, or we love it, but we don't like the setting. And then they give it to certain directors, they look at it, and they might say, oh, we like it, but we don't really love the secondary characters, and so on, and it goes on and on and on. While when you write a novel, you just write the novel and then you sell your novel. That's all.
Well, I'm curious to know, because I honestly don't know if this is true or not, but if you have a director and he has your material in front of him, and he's got a particular actor that he wants to put into a particular role, will he tell you, well, this actor can do this really well, but he can't do that very well? Can you reconstruct the character to work with this particular actor? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, yes and no. It all depends. Obviously, if the character is very similar to the character I've written, I can tweak certain things and change the dialogue in a certain way to make it more fluid for the actor. But obviously, if I have a main character who is, for example, a 30-year-old Asian woman, and now they want a 20-year-old Caucasian woman, and so on, it might not work at all. It might not fit anymore into the setting and the screenplay, and that might be difficult. You always try to work with people. You try to be a player. That's how they call people in Hollywood. They're players. You want to work with a team, but sometimes it's just too much, because you change it for one person and then the next person come into play, like a producer, and they want a totally different thing again. And then you change it around again. Now the director doesn't like it anymore, and suddenly you have a different director. So
Right.
it's all really difficult and time consuming and frustrating at times, honestly speaking.
I can imagine. Are there any titles that we would recognize?
I don't think so. I mean, you can see it on my website, all the screenplays I've written. Most of them were optioned or bought, but not ever made. I mean, there were a couple I made, a couple of short movies, but that's a long time ago and now.
So there are actually screenplays that go up for auction, and they're bought, and they never get made?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's because they
yeah.
can't find the money? They
They're they're
write
they're
the idea,
shelved. They're shelved, and there are many, many. I mean, we are talking hundreds, thousands
and so they
every
buy them,
year.
but then they're shelved, and why would they do that?
That's a good question. I I don't know because at the moment they think or believe that it's viable and that it will be a great hit, and then things change so quickly that suddenly it's not anymore, and suddenly they don't feel it anymore. Or you have also moments that you go into a meeting and they're all excited. They're really excited. They want your screenplay. And I think many writers, I hope some writers will hear this today, they can really relate to this, and you're sitting there and you're so excited because it's going to happen for you. This is your moment, right? And then 2 weeks later, there's somebody else sitting in the same studio, you know, in that same place, and they say, "Oh no, 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 it's not going to happen. Not for you. Not today."
Oh, that would genuinely suck. That really would.
Yeah, it
That would be no
happens.
fun at all. So I can understand why you made the transition from being a, screenwriter to being a novelist.
Yeah, it's also age related, honestly speaking. There's a lot of people want really, really young people in Hollywood, and like this, I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I wanted to be free.
The young, the fabulous, it's amazing to me that they want even in screenwriting and behind the scenes, they want younger people.
Right. Often. I mean, there's for sure somebody out there who says right now, oh, this is absolutely not true. But most of the time, yes. Yes.
That's I understand, but that's just me. But, it actually happens in the real world too, because I reached a certain age, when I was, like, 50, and I was looking for a job that I'd done before and done really well at it, and they said, "No, you're too old, you want too much money, and you're not gonna work as hard as the 30-year-old that's on his way up, and you're gonna be, kind of leveling off and getting ready for retirement," and so and all of those sorts of things that they put into their heads and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I can't think of a better thing for you than to be a novelist and to come on shows like mine so that you can talk about your books and your process and how it works for you.
All
So,
right. Yeah.
what is your process? How does it work for you?
um, shall I give you a run through of my day and how I write a
Yeah,
book?
well, let me give you an example. I was talking to an author just the other day, and she said, because I asked her the same question, and she said, "Well, I had 3 young boys. So
Mhm.
I would be cooking spaghetti with one hand and writing on the back of a receipt on the other hand because I had an idea that was gonna go into the book, and then I would get so everybody's got a different process, I would imagine.
Right. So my process is more that I sit actually down and I start writing in the morning, and I work on a particular book. I have always like 2, 3 things going at the same time, but I have always a main project that is the most important project. So I start working on my most important project first, because if I then run out of steam, then I'm sometimes switched to my second most important project. So I start working in the morning. My kids are grown up, so there are no more little kids running around. But I used to write with little kids running around and a lot of noise. I like noise around me. So I love to work in coffee shops. I
Huh?
love always, I'm in New York City, so, here a lot of coffee shops and a lot of varieties. So I love to write in coffee shops because I kind of like, um, I like the noise around me. I like movement around me. It doesn't have to be absolutely quiet. I also always listen to music while I'm writing. And so then I start writing. I have I know writers always also like to know about how many pages or I write a day or the word count. And I have like an overall weekly word count because there's always one day when something happens. And then if I don't do my words, then I get all like upset with myself. So, so I put it as a weekly word count, which is about 6,000 words a week. I write about 1,000 words a day, sometimes 1,500, sometimes a little less, depending. I'm not very strict. I don't have that many rules when it comes to writing.
See, I really didn't realize that that was a thing, that authors do like a word count to see how they're doing. There's a young lady that I interviewed. Her name is Shanti. She's 14 years old. She's got 9 books out, and averaged
Wow.
she averaged 1,000 words an hour is what she averaged and what she could write, because it just flowed for her. And
Yeah.
so, and I suspect that that's a lot.
That, I mean, for me would be impossible.
Yeah.
So for me personally, the way I write, I mean, I have to develop, I start before I actually write a book, I start to develop it. There's a developing process I'm going through. That's maybe because I come from screenwriting. So in screenwriting, everything has to be really organized because you have only a certain page count you can have because every page is a minute. So you can't have 200 pages because you would have a 200-minute movie. So you have to be very organized. So I'm very organized when it comes to my writing. So I start out with an outline. That doesn't mean that I stick to the outline always. I do make changes while I'm writing, but I do have an outline and I work from an outline. And when I write, I mean, 1,000 words an hour, no, that wouldn't be possible. Not the type of writing I do. I'm sure some people can do it, and I'm sure there are people out there they write 5,000 words a day, but it wouldn't be my
Yeah,
my thing.
that would be a lot. That would be a lot. So I've talked to writers, and some of them will say, "No, I just sit down and it just kind of flows, and I just start the book, and it's one chapter bleeds into the other." And others, like yourself, that will say, "No, I have an outline, and I have characters somewhat developed,
Mhm.
and what they're going to be doing, and kind of their." I've even talked to people that have done a complete background of each character before they even start the book, which would be how old they are, what their education is, what kind of uh, relationships they have, what are their fears, their phobias, all that kind of stuff. Do you go that far?
No, I'm not going that far. I kind of know. I write one paragraph for each character that appears in my book or screenplay, and I have one paragraph where I kind of know um, kind of a little bit what their education is and their age range and how they will connect then to another character. But I don't write extensive bios for my characters. And I also, my outline is very limited. I write like a small paragraph for each chapter. I don't have big, huge, long outlines. I know there are some writers who love to work from very long, extensive outlines. I don't have this. My outlines are, honestly speaking, more a security blanket,
Ah,
because I can fall back, when I write and I type and type, and suddenly I come to a point where I'm like, oh, what is going to be next, and it's like kind of those moments where you say, oh, I don't know, I need another 100 pages and I really don't know what is interesting here. And then I fall back to and look at my outline, and something always sticks out, this little tiny thing that tells me, that would be interesting. Let's play around a little bit and see how it will work in the story. How can I integrate it? Does it work or it doesn't? Might not work, and then I throw it out again, So it's always a process. I'm also a writer who loves to edit. So
that's odd. That's
yeah,
unique, because most authors have to send them away to get edited, and then they have to do a rewrite and another rewrite, and
yeah,
you write yourself.
I like to write my first draft, and then I go through it very often, many, many times. I have a first draft, and then I write another 15, 20 drafts, depending. I go through over and over and over, and every time there is something more you can do. But there are different types of editing. Also, there's the development editing that it's early on, after the first draft. The second, third, and fourth draft is about development of the story, of the characters, and then I do a dialogue draft. I look especially at dialogue, that it sounds, as you can hear, English is actually my second language, because I was born in Germany and lived in Europe for many years before I came to the United States. So it's not my first language. So what I do is I read it out loud to myself, and then I see if the dialogue works or not. Actually, people told me that some people said in screenwriting, especially, the most they liked about my scripts was the dialogue, which was odd to me, but oh well, I took it. I said, oh yeah, great, thank you. But so I have drafts for development of characters and settings and everything. Then I have a dialogue draft. And then I start to get into the itsy bitsy things. Yeah, like, are the sentences too long? Does it drag somewhere? Is it boring? You have to be honest with yourself, because not everything I write is so great. There are passages, even I get bored. I'm like looking at it and I'm saying, oh well, it could be better.
But there's a certain
you
point.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I did want to talk to you also about the book that came out this last September,
Hmm.
which is called The Hours in Between. And
Yes.
it's about a lady, I believe it's a lady, correct?
Yes, correct.
Who's got 6 months left to live.
Yes.
And what motivated you to come up with that? Was that from your personal experience, or?
No, not really from my personal experience, but I mean, partially. Let's put it partially, but not. I was not involved in it. People I knew who died really young and who had a lot of regrets, and I don't know. Because I'm actually a person who loves to write like romantic comedies and things like that. So I was astonished myself when I came up with this idea, but it fascinated me, the subject, because we never know what is tomorrow. So always about today. It's about, I love meditation and I love things like this. So it's about living in the moment. And we tend to live so much in the future or in the past. We don't live a lot actually in this very moment. This is what we have right now, but we search for so much more in the future. What can I do, where can I travel to, and so on, or what happened in the past, my ex-husband, my in-laws, my whatever, and the moment, this very moment, gets lost. And I wanted to write about that, and I wanted to write a novel about that. And so I just came up with this idea about this woman and her journey about living, because she decides. Because the thing is, it's not a book about dying at all. It's a book about living.
I can't decide. So perhaps since you've thought about this a great deal, you can help me. I
Yes.
can't decide whether or not it's better to sit down in a doctor's office and have him say, "Okay, you are sick and you're terminal and you've got 6 months to live," or to wake up one day or to go to bed at night one night and then not wake up the next day. I can't. I think there are value to both. Um,
Mhm.
one of which would be if you've got 6 months left to live and you know that we're all going to die, but you have a time frame that's been affixed to it, that you can then make changes in your life or to reconcile with people, or to change what you have time to do your will, that everybody puts off doing their will until the very end, and then but so it doesn't get done or whatever. So in your frame of reference, which would be better for you? To have 6 months to know that you've got 6 months to live, or to just, go to bed at night and not wake up the next morning?
I mean, for me personally, I would rather go to bed and not wake up the next morning, because I think it's a very difficult journey you go on if you know that you have to die in 6 months. I mean, my character went on a very difficult journey, but she went also on a beautiful journey. So, having that said, I feel it is easier for the people you love and leave behind to have the opportunity to say goodbye. It's
Yeah.
very, very hard. Sorry, it's very hard for people, what I learned when I did a little research and so on, for people not not being able to say goodbye to somebody they loved, and suddenly that person is gone. It's done, It's very hard. Yeah.
Well, and that actually happened to me. My mother, who was 90, and I've told this story before, but it bears repeating because it was my mom after all.
Yeah.
And she went to dinner and played bridge on Wednesday night. She went and hung out with some friends on Thursday night and had dinner again. And then Friday, she went home and died.
Wow.
And she was found, Saturday morning. She was, like we said, she was 90. She was convinced that she was going to live to be 106. So we as children were like, well, we've got lots of time. Uh,
Mhm.
and she's well. She doesn't have cancer, or she doesn't have or dementia or anything that would lead us to believe that her time was short. And
Right.
then she was here, and then she wasn't. It was
Mhm.
the weirdest dang thing. Because fortunately we talked on a weekly basis, and so we kept up and stuff. But I can understand if somebody passes away and you don't have a chance. Well, as an example, if somebody dies in an accident
Mhm.
and you don't have an opportunity to say you had a fight that morning and whatever it was, and you don't have an opportunity to make up or to settle what's going on between you, that would be a very hard, complex, guilt-ridden thing to go through, I would think.
Yeah. I think definitely, and not even it doesn't even have to be that the people had a fight, or that you had a fight with your husband or wife or mother or child or whatever. It can be simply the thing, suddenly the person you love, the person or a good friend is not there anymore. You can't talk to them anymore. You can't say one little thing that you maybe wanted to say and never said. And so I think for the people who stay behind, it's definitely harder if somebody suddenly dies. Yeah.
It's interesting that we are now gaining a lot of different communities within our country and around the world, and one of them is a community that's out west is a widow and widowers club of sorts, and it's
Mhm.
for people who have lost a loved one, a husband or a wife, and then they can go get help from other people who've already been through it and understand it and stuff like that. We're getting more and more of that. So it's kind of good to see, don't you think that and books like what you've written here will kind of shed a little bit more of a light on on death and stuff like that and make it a lot more acceptable. I think. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I'm always a firm believer that it's good to have groups of people who went through the same thing, and you can talk to people. It's the same thing if you have a certain form of cancer. It's good probably to talk to somebody who has the same or had the same for and seek advice, and or just like somebody who listens to you and how you feel. So I feel it's a wonderful thing, and I just feel the more of those groups we have, the better it will be to connect to people also, like really to find your group.
I no, I agree. So how is the hours between doing for you since it came out in September? Is it selling?
It is selling. It is selling. It is selling gradually, because I self-published this book by choice, um, um, because I wanted to get it out as quickly as possible. And I also, as I said before, I wanted to be really independent. And so it is selling. It is selling. What It's not for me as much about the numbers as it is about how many people come to me to tell me that they can relate to the book and that they had a lot of emotions reading the book. And that was my goal. And so I'm happy about it.
I really enjoy talking to writers and musicians and people who do what I do and stuff because they really do have an impact on other people. And like I keep telling authors that this book that you've written is going to be out there and somebody's going to pick it up. It might be next week, it might be 5 years from now, and it's going to mean something and very important to them. And you'll never know that. Um,
Exactly, and I hope it will touch people in some form, and that people think about things. It's called the hours in between because it's the hours between life and death, basically. It's the hours in between we have, and we don't really know how many hours these are. For some people, few hours. For some people, an enormous amount of hours. I mean, it's like, but we most of us don't know, and it's about how we live and what we can do to live life without having too many regrets. That's what the book is about. And that is the response I get from people, from readers. They say, oh, I always wanted to do this and that, and I always like postpone it because there's another thing, but now I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to just do it. Or I'm afraid. It doesn't have to be the big thing. It doesn't have to, you don't have to travel around the world and spend all your money or do huge things. It can be like, oh, one lady said she always wanted to learn how to do rock climbing. And she always was afraid. And
sure.
she says, now I read the book and I said, why not? I'm just doing it. I'm just taking a class. I'm just inviting a friend to come with me. It can be a little thing that changes your life and gives you courage to do more. My main character, Liz, has a lot of courage because she picks up nothing, her life changes completely from what she had before to what she has then, because she learns that she is sick, and she picks up and she travels to the West Coast, from East Coast to West Coast, just to change her life. And so many wonderful things happen to her because she opens herself up to the universe, to possibilities. If we don't do that, nothing happens to us. We have to go out and open ourselves up to opportunities and possibilities, even if we are scared sometimes. And believe me, I'm scared. I can get very anxious about certain things, but sometimes you have to push yourself just a slight little bit and say, okay, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely, because if you talk to people that are hospice workers and they take care of people that are in the last 6 months of life, they'll tell you virtually to a person that the biggest thing that people have is the regret of things they didn't do. It's not the amount of money that they had, it's the things that they didn't do that they wanted to do, the impact that they wanted to make but didn't make in the world, and that sort of thing. And so is important. And the closer we get, I don't know about you, but I'm getting closer to the end than I was ever before. And I want to make sure that I'm doing the things in my life that will have a positive impact on myself and other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important, and it's important for all of us. I think it's part of our psyche. It's part of why we're here.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to postpone things, and then we might have regrets. Sometimes it's okay just to say yes right now, in this instant, in this minute. Nothing will be ever perfect. There will not ever be the perfect time to have kids. There won't be the perfect time to get that pet you always wanted. There won't be the perfect time to travel to a certain place, because you don't know what happens. I mean, I might travel. I just came from New Orleans, and I was there when there was the tornado.
Yeah,
I didn't know about a tornado. I had to look it up. What's the difference between the tornado and the hurricane? Because I was like, oh God, a tornado, It's like this notion of the perfect time, of the perfect moment. It's just not happening. Do it now, now. That's what I say. Change your life if you want to. If you have the perfect life, then obviously not, but the people who don't have perfect lives, which are more people than not, I believe, um, they say, oh God, I've been with this man forever and I can't stand him anymore. And I say, okay, then you have to leave, and be free and live your life. You have to live it now.
well, there's never going to be a good time for it, because if you wait until the money's absolutely right and you wait until you're secure and all this, you might be too old at that point to be able to go. Well, as an example, I could no more go rock climbing than fly to the moon. That's just that's just not happening. Not that I really want to do that, but if I did,
Right,
it still would be not be possible.
right,
But
right.
20 years ago, I could have.
Yeah. Or sometimes, we have things from our childhood that people say, oh, I'm a bad painter. I don't know how to paint because my mother always told me that it's horrible what I'm doing, and I don't want to do it because I'm afraid. I said, take that class. Just go. Nothing bad can happen, you do it for yourself also. You don't necessarily have to do everything for everybody else. You can do things for yourself. And you see in my book, she's doing finally things for herself. She's going on a journey, But the interesting part is what happens to her because she's taking those initial steps, because she's not planning much more than just traveling to be with her kids in on the west coast. So she, but what happens, the steps in between, that is what what is the exciting part, that is, for example, she's booking a flight to get there quickly, but then things happen and she's not on that flight. So it's like, it's the little moments, it's the little touches of things. That's why I also can't write more than 1,000 words a day, because there's so many tiny little things, and I just hope for readers. My wish is really that they can relate to Liz's journey and get something great out for themselves, that they read the book and they feel empowered,
That's a big deal. Is
you
is
know.
to be is to feel good about it and to be empowered by it.
Yes.
And so, what you got cooking in the works?
Oh, well, I can't talk about that. No, I can. A little bit. I have actually, and that's also the lovely thing about being a writer and self-publishing, because you can actually write whatever you want and nobody will tell you no. And I like that.
Yep.
So I'm actually working on a nonfiction book. Um, that that kind of relates a little bit to the hours in between, because it's called 50 words in the morning, and it's just about writing 50 words in the morning about something that just comes to your mind. It could be anything. It can be the croissant you're looking forward. It can be the child you have to bring to school. It can be just the outfit you have to choose. Just write something that you think about and be creative with it. And so it's a little neat little book. And I only will bring it out on Kindle simply uh, so on a tab, basically, and not in paperback or hard copy, simply because it has a photography of mine in it and a lot of emojis and a lot of little quirky little fun things. So it would be far too expensive to print it. I mean, it would make no sense. And I also want to connect it to several charities, just to give back a little bit, and it's just a fun project. That's my fun project. And then I'm working on another novel, of course. And the only thing I can say, there's once again a house in there that plays a big role, like in the hours in between. There's also a house that plays a big role in the book. And in my new novel, there's another house that also, but very different. It's a very different book. It's far lighter than the one I wrote. It's still, the genre, I would say, is still in the like upmarket fiction, book club fiction.
Well,
Uh,
it's cool that you're continuing to write stuff, and you've got a ton of stuff. And I'm looking at your website. By the way, if you want to go to olivia-barry.com, you can look at all of her. I love the premise of the TV pilot for Miss President, which is obviously it's a single woman who has to be over 35, but
she is
becomes
over
the
there.
first female unmarried president of the United States. Could you imagine what that would? Oh, well, you did imagine that what that would be like because you wrote about it. But
Yeah.
did you have an episode about her dating?
Yes. So I wrote the pilot about it, and I'm desperately trying to sell this one because love the Miss President pilot thing. She is so the thing is she is unmarried, but during so she is elected obviously to become president of the United States, which is already a big thing, right? And and then she finds out she's pregnant,
And she's single.
and she's single.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
There's this,
and and then she there's obviously a love interest in the White House, which happens to be the dog walker. So it's a funny, it's like a comedy type romantic thing, but it's also about how would a woman president handle certain situations, different probably from men, and how would she deal with being a mother, but also being the most powerful woman in the world.
and how long does she turn the power over to the vice president when she's in labor? Um,
Exactly. That's the question. The vice president is not the nicest man. Let's put it this way.
I was just thinking, the wonderful things that you can have happen would be one of them would be not only is she pregnant, but she has a baby and it's a mixed race baby, and they don't know who the father is, and then I mean that would cause a lot of really interesting conflict within the country.
Yeah. I would be open to it. I mean, I was asked by it's been with several producers, and it wouldn't be. It's a show that costs a little bit of money, so it's harder to make, than other shows. But I was often asked, can the president be African American or Hispanic? And I said, of course, why not?
Yeah,
Make it happen. Make it happen.
it's America. We can do anything here.
Yeah, and we have to be, I'm open to rewrite it. Important is that somebody's out there who says, hello, that's a show I want to see. But, so far it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult.
Well, somebody has to have a little bit of vision.
Yeah.
And they have to be willing to put a little bit of money behind their vision, and to get the pilot made so that they can shop it around
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But I think that would be, well, gosh, there are there's so many channels now, and there's some really interesting, not really interesting shows, but some shows that I wouldn't have thought 15, 20, 30 years ago they never would have been made.
Right.
And now they're all of them are being made, and they're on different channels and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I hope that this gets picked up.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. It's a very diverse show also. It has so many roles, so many characters. Obviously, it's the White House, and it's a very, very diverse show. So there are so many roles for all people.
Yeah, it
You
would
know.
be that would be great. And you've got like the $1 Million Date. You've got Changing Billy, who was a teenager who was quite heavy, and his father died, and then he decided he wanted to run the New York Marathon, and
Yeah.
that's
Uh,
really cool.
he wanted to run, and he hooks up with a kid who is in the wheelchair. The kid in the wheelchair becomes his best friend and trains him actually to run. So
Oh, that's really cool.
I like it. I like it because it gives also people with handicap, people who have handicaps, a little bit motivation, and here are possibilities. We are a unified. We should be a unified world where everybody has a place. We
Oh
want
yeah.
everybody to have a place in this world, and not uh, more now than ever. It would be great to create that. That's more like an overall theme I like
It would be really
to think about.
Yeah, it would be really great to create, I don't know, a TV show or maybe even a radio show. You could call it, I don't know, Positive Talk or Positive Talk Radio or something like that. But
Yeah.
something to be positive, that we're trying to help humanity get out of the where we are now, which is a lot of hate, division, and fear, and it's like we were just saying, if the president was a woman and she had a baby out of wedlock, this country would go, a third of the country would go nuts. With
Probably yes, but why not? What what does it mean? She can be still a fantastic president. Of course,
Oh,
she would
yes, of
need some
course.
help. She will not stay at home, bake cookies all week long. But but that's not the point. The point is why not? Why not?
Exactly.
Why not? I mean, one nice word has so much more impact than 10 negative words. One positive word. If you go to one person and you say one nice little thing, it has such an enormous impact that we sometimes don't know. Sometimes I like to do little things. Like, for example, I'm in a coffee shop and I saw these two workers who were like, I mean, they were drenched. It was raining outside. They were like, I don't know what they were repairing or doing, but they were waiting behind me. So I just said to the woman in front of me, I pay for them, whatever they're having. I mean, they were thanking me half an hour later still. I said, stop already thanking me. It's okay. It was just like a coffee and a pastry. It was not like a life-saving act I did. But it made a big impact because I'm sure they went home and they said to whoever is at home, oh, listen, today I went to the coffee shop and this lady bought me like the croissant and cup of tea or whatever ever they had. And so if everybody would just do a little gesture or help somebody to pick up something or move their cart for them or like just do whatever little tiny thing, it would change the world, instead of all the hatred and the negativity and people like not accepting other people for who they are. And it's just like, no, let's think positive. That's why we have positive talk radio.
That's absolutely correct. It's interesting because I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that we are in the middle of a really large change in our society and how we're looking at things. I interviewed a gal a week or so ago, and one of the things that she had it in her heart to do something. She kept on seeing and hearing hope. The word hope was like everywhere for her, and she
Mhm.
said, all right, somebody's giving me this message, somebody's telling me this is something, I need to do something with this. So she was looking at, I think it was Amazon, and she was looking at different things, and she found these rocks, and they're polished black rocks, and they have a gold lettering on them that says hope, and they're just a little rock, and so she bought a bunch of them. And so now she goes around her community. It's a small community, but if she sees somebody who is having a bad day, that is down in the dumps, she'll just walk up to him, doesn't say a thing. She just says, "You look like you could use this."
Oh, I love that. I love it. That's so nice. That's
Yes,
really,
puts it
that's
puts, puts it in their hand, and so when they walk away, they get to keep it. So every time that they're thinking that I have no hope, no, you do. It's in your pocket, right?
right.
You know.
Yeah, that's
So
lovely. That's what I'm talking about. It's a gesture. It's not a huge thing, but she makes an enormous impact on the life of some people. And that's wonderful. We all have different ways of doing this. It's
oh yeah,
just the amount of people who should do it. That's
we're getting
we're getting
more
there.
more and more people. I
More
think.
and more people, yeah, I think positive. Yeah, I believe there are a lot of wonderful, wonderful people out there, loving and kind.
And that's why we have you on this show, doggone it. Because you are also loving and kind, and you're building a little book empire, and you're helping people, and if somebody wanted to contact you, could you talk to them a little bit about writing if they were interested in learning how?
Yeah, they can contact me always at connect at olivia-barry.com. It's on my website. On my website, they can contact me through my newsletter, or I have also a contact page where they can just write me, and I'm always happy to write back or even talk to them sometimes. I mean, it depends how many people write me at once, so I can't promise that it will be immediately, but I try really to get back to everybody who writes me.
Okay, everybody, it's you now have an assignment. It's time for you to bury Olivia and and, and request to contact her.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to people, and you know if they need some reassurance about that life is good.
Exactly. Now, before we go, I want to give you the opportunity
Yes.
for the audiences listening now and those that will be listening far into the future, because once this is up, it's up. It stays forever. To tell them something that's on your heart that you'd like them to know.
I would like everybody to know that there's always the possibility to change your life. Just have to take the first step and take little steps, baby steps. Don't think about the big picture all the time. Sometimes you have to, but most of the time, it's about the little tiny baby steps we take. And I think if you need some change in your life, you can change your life whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how much money you have. You can take that little tiny step and do it today. Don't do it in 10 minutes. Do it today, whatever it is. Just reach out to somebody, make a little tiny phone call, write a letter, go out for a walk. You can do it.
And by the way, for those of you that don't know, a letter is a piece of paper that you write things on, and then you fold it up and you put it in an envelope, you put a stamp on it, and you send it to somebody.
Yeah.
There's a whole generation that has no idea how that works, but it's not an
I
email or a
I
text.
know. Email, you can send a text and email, but you can also send a letter, because a letter still does make an impact. You know,
A letter it takes the time to write it. It takes the time to get the address for it and to do all those things, and they can keep it permanently in their valuable treasures forever.
right, right. So a letter is special, but of course, write an email, write a text, make a phone call, reach out to people, or just do something for yourself. Take that bubble bath you were talking about for 5 months now and you haven't done yet because you you can't find the time. Just do it now. Rush, go to the bathroom, run the water, put some soap in there, and just read a book. I mean, read the hours
Exactly.
in between and change your life.
And get the book that came out in September, and the name of that book I'm going to it right now is The Hours in Between by Olivia Barry. She's been our guest today, and I want to thank you for being here. Will you come back and talk to me some more?
Of course, anytime, anytime. It was a pleasure. Really, I
You
appreciate it very much.
you're a wonderful human being, and keep doing what you're doing, because you're having a positive impact.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Happy
So
holidays.
Happy holidays to you. It's this week. Christmas is on Saturday and Sunday. Who knew?
Yeah.
For the first time in like ever. It's great fun. So Olivia, thank you so much for being here. Stay right where you are. I'll be right back. Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we got.